I have photos throughout the whole thing, as well as incidents reports. So it's caused a bigger problem for everyone, not just me, what they did, the work that was done. And if you look on Claire's property, if you see that one, it's a little blurry, that picture, it's green grass with the tree. You see the little stream starting? That's on Claire's property, on her other side of her property.
This one here.
No, this I'll show you. Yeah, that one. See how that's,
Were you falling into this picture?
no, I don't know, it was clear when I took it. It was clear when I took it, I don't know what happened when I made a copy of it. But see, this is the tree and that was filled in. So the tree is kind of like in a hole now, but this is a stream starting on the other side of her property. So my side is over here, and her side is, the other side, so it's a stream forming. And if you look at this here, see the erosion, it's starting to just come on my property. No, that's not clear, but anyway, but you see how that's happening here? So,
Well, he did tell me that he wanted to put a drain here. He told me that the last meeting that we had.
but how does that affect our deeds? How does that affect, if we have a drainage easement on our deeds, how does that affect?
I can't answer that question.
I know, but
Well,
this is what,
Isn't it up to the town, the village, to maintain the drainage easements? To make sure that the drainage continues,
If they're not on
surface
village
water should
property.
continue. Well, who's the easement for?
Yeah. If the village will maintain it, or should maintain it.
So the surface water really needs to run downhill away from the properties. That's what drainage easements are for, between properties. Sometimes they need to be regraded every 20 years or whatever when things fill in, or people fill them in.
but they put piping and drains through the 2 or 3 of my neighbors' properties. And it doesn't seem like it's really helping, to be honest with you. It's just really not doing what it's supposed to be doing. So I'm a little bit concerned of what kind of plan they had. Like, what kind of plan? It doesn't make sense, because it's obviously not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And then with the erosion behind the houses, that's really, if you look at the pictures from the month before, it's a lot narrower. And it's not being maintained.
Is erosion on your property?
There's erosion on my property, absolutely, and there's erosion that's coming from Claire's property onto my property again. But my problem is that there's a lot of water that's on my property now. It's not draining, like it was before they interfered with the drainage easements. I mean, I don't know why the work was not stopped when I put the incidents reports in. I don't understand why the work was not stopped. And a permit was insisted upon, to have a permit with a plan that made sense. And the property behind me, they put a lot of fill on their property, so they're much higher than everyone else.
That would be
The-
clams.
No, behind us, where the,
On the other side of the tracks?
on the other side of the tracks, yeah.
But that's not really behind you, it's not behind your property.
is behind my property, that is behind others' properties, that interferes with my property. If he raised his land,
So you're saying water is coming that way towards?
of course, and then he has that, it's not doing the job, whatever he did, it's not doing the job.
So the railroad bank, let's say.
Yeah, over there, it's across the industrial building now, let's say.
Mr. Mayor, Michael Morgan, 111 East Main. We met. I'm new to the neighborhood, so let me stand. I'm sorry. So
Welcome to the neighborhood.
thank you.
You'd be our friend, right? How's that going?
Thanks. I came in and I heard about the deeds and different drains that should have been in. I was experiencing some flooding. I didn't know what to do. I got a favor done because when I came in, I just hear rumors about who has been lifting, who has been, so I figured more or less everyone needed to take care of themselves. So, as I'm saying, if everyone has been filling and doing over the years for themselves, and I come in and this is what I'm hearing, this is what I'm gonna do. So, just a disclaimer, I'm the new kid on the block, and I have a 5-year-old son, so I wanna make sure that my yard is not flooded. He loves going outside sometime in the rain, but I don't want my yard to be underwater. So if I get it elevated, I'm thankful. If there's a procedure that need to be followed and it was followed, I'm also happy for that. That being said, I just heard about all the things that were going on before. I was grandfathered in, so I'm just gonna take care of my property, and that's how I see it. I'd love to work with my neighbors, so if we all come up with a plan, beautiful. But if what's been happening over time has been every man for himself, before I came in, that's a rule I'm gonna follow.
Did your property flood?
Occasionally I get water, but I'm communicating with my neighbor because it's how some of the pipes are being set up, so it could go a bit further to the rear of my yard, so it drains right into a drain pipe that's there. But I was getting a little bit more flooding, and I was also worried when I moved in because I closed when most of this work was going on. And one of the concern that was brought to me by the guys who were fixing it was that my yard would have been flooded, so they said they were gonna do me a favor and just elevate my yard as well.
They
So,
put a catch basin in too, right?
no, they didn't put a catch
So
basin
it's
for
just
me.
your neighbor that
It was just my neighbor. So what they did was they elevated my yard and said that they were gonna do that as a favor to me. Since I came in on the back end, I wasn't a part of, what was taking place before, so.
How does this affect FEMA? Since where we've been flooded before, and now the terrain has been interfered with. How does this affect FEMA?
I don't have that answer.
Okay. I think we need to find that answer out, because I know that they won't be happy about this.
Yeah, why would they have any say for it?
Excuse me?
Why would they have any say for it?
Because they had to come and assist all of the homeowners in that whole area.
Yeah, but they didn't buy out lots like the other lots we were talking about earlier. They bought them out, and we're responsible for them because we bought them out. Your lot didn't get bought out.
I think it has to do with more filling and grading,
Yeah.
and the law that's on the books, and the permits that would have been required with a drawing and elevations and plans,
Yeah, but she's.
and who becomes part and who owns the easements.
That's local to the village.
Yeah, but to her point, there's been nothing submitted. It was done, I'll say on the fly. He did it, but again, with no engineering behind it that anybody's aware of. There's been no permit. To the point of how high he raised his own property in relationship to these 3 or 4 properties has now affected 111 potentially, and then the other 2 neighbors that border Nicole. And the little bit of rain we had, I went by and there was a fairly large pub. You get 5, 6, 7 inches of rain, and it's gonna be compounded probably tenfold. And all because, makes sense, right? You're gonna raise your property 5, I'm at 2, where's the water gonna come? Everything runs down. So, to the point of engineering and having everything done potentially by an engineer that would have stamped it and known what the hell needs to be done. I think that's her chief complaint.
I'm just discussing the FEMA aspect of it. I don't think FEMA would have anything to do with it, the village issue, not a FEMA issue.
But the village is not taking care of it.
Again, it's a village issue. You're saying
Right, but
FEMA.
I've been
will do
asking the
something
village
about
to
it.
take care of it for several years now. And the village has done nothing, and now they've just allowed violations to be done on the drainage easement and the changing of the terrain.
I'm not agreeing with or disagreeing with
I'm
what the
just saying,
village
I
is
just
and doing. I'm
keep
just
coming
saying,
here every month,
my
you keep
point is, I don't
blowing it
think
off.
FEMA has anything to do with it. You're saying there's a violations with FEMA. I don't think there is.
We'll see.
You could take a look at the 100-year flood map that the Army Corps just changed back in probably 2011, which changed a lot of boundaries and it changed a lot of flood insurance policies where people didn't have it and now we're required to get it. And all along 94, the lines run all the way this way. I mean, I'm on Maple, and at the end of the cul-de-sac is a 500-year floodplain. So it's all over the place. But, you know, we have to do our due diligence, and if we're gonna do it, we've gotta do it so it doesn't, it's negative impact to everybody. And this is not a, you know, this is a positive impact to her in that respect.
Any other comments?
Yes. Jason Kramer, 98 Capitol Drive. Just one quick question, and maybe a follow-up. The deadline that FEMA put out, you said there might be fines if everything's not met. Is there a deadline that they've given you already?
No, they have not.
Okay. And is there a date of when they first notified the village? Maybe even before you took office, of when everything, you know, what the list was?
Everyone signed off on the documentations dating back to the previous administration.
Mhm.
And it was, when I spoke to FEMA regarding an issue,
Mhm.
they came down and visited and found that it hasn't been met. The requirements of, their requirements were never met. Meanwhile, it was signed off by building department, and that led the rest of the board to just go by that.
So it's fair to say 3 to 4 years ago is when they first gave the list of what needed to be taken care of?
Well, it came from Irene.
Okay, so it goes back to Irene.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
They bought buyouts,
Mhm.
all right? And now we're stuck with it. That's the bottom line, okay? Because administrations were not doing what they were supposed to do when they needed to do it. And now, for some reason, we got stuck with it, okay? This board, this village at this time has gotten stuck with it. If I send it out for bid, and let's say the bid comes back at $500,000 or $1 million to do this, and I'm not saying it is,
Sure.
where do we get that money? Okay, has to be done.
Sure. So you guys have been working on this ever since you guys took over, knowing that this was,
This
Right,
just came
yeah.
about maybe a month ago.
a month ago that they said things haven't been met yet?
Yeah.
But didn't you just say you knew that the prior board didn't meet all the,
Well, this board had nothing to do with it.
No, a month ago, we said, when he found out with the meeting with FEMA.
that nothing had been met, so you guys were all under the assumption that everything had been met
Correct.
up until that meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we have asphalt driveways. We got a tennis court. Okay, it's supposed to be taken out,
Mhm.
and people sign their name to it. Okay, the village could be hit with the fraudulent complaint. Right?
All right, I appreciate the info. Thank you.
But, right? Yes,
Well,
no?
I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. I can't say yes or no on that, but I was just curious on when all the information
Well, you can't sign your name to something that's not true. Right?
Well, yeah, of course. Okay,
Welcome to our world.
thank you.
Sean Hagerty, 4 Belvoir Drive. My question is about getting due diligence done on large projects like Decker Drive. Some of the curbing was ripped up, new curbing was ripped up twice at least, maybe 3 times. Well, 2 years ago, there was curbing and driveways put in. Then they came back the next year to do the curbing, and they ripped up some of them very brand-new ones they put in, they ripped them up again. For what reason, I don't know. So we paid for the same thing twice. Then it all got done, and then curbing's in, and then they have to rip up curbing because the pipes weren't checked.
Because of what?
The pipes weren't checked, we had bad pipes, so now they ripped up another 100 or 200 feet of curbing. Are you guys gonna get a plan where pipes are checked, everything's done in advance, rather than us paying 2 and 3 times for the same work?
We had a storm drain, that's the pipe you're mentioning.
Correct.
200 feet of curbing.
Right.
It came to $18,000.
It's 18,000 more than it needs to become if
Absolutely, I'm not